In every room where decisions are made, boardrooms, courtrooms, negotiations, private dinners, there is a familiar illusion. The illusion is that control belongs to the loudest voice, the one who speaks the most, the one who fills the silence first. But when you observe carefully, something unsettling becomes clear. Control rarely belongs to the person who is talking. It belongs to the person everyone is unconsciously watching while they talk. This is the central paradox of social power. The more someone speaks, the less weight each word carries. And the less someone speaks, the more pressure their presence creates. This is exactly why talking less allows you to control the room more. Silence is not empty. Silence is a force. When a room goes quiet, attention does not disappear, it concentrates. Every pause pulls focus toward the person who is not rushing to fill it. The quiet individual becomes the reference point. Others begin to adjust their behavior around that stillness. They speak faster. They justify themselves. They explain more than necessary. And in doing so, they unknowingly surrender leverage. Watch how this plays out in real situations. In meetings, the person who speaks first often sets themselves up to be reacted to. Their ideas are evaluated, challenged, refined, or dismissed. Meanwhile, the person who waits gathers information without revealing intent. By talking less, they preserve optionality. They are not locked into a position. This restraint alone begins to tilt control in their direction. Talking less does not mean saying nothing. It means refusing to broadcast your internal state. Loud behavior leaks urgency, insecurity, and emotional investment. Silence, by contrast, signals containment. It suggests that you do not need immediate validation, and psychologically, people defer to those who appear self-contained. This is not about confidence in the motivational sense. It is about status signaling. Across human hierarchies, high-status individuals are not expected to explain themselves in detail. Their words are assumed to have weight. Their silence is interpreted as deliberation, not confusion. This expectation is deeply embedded in social psychology, and it is one of the reasons why those who talk less often control the room more. When someone speaks continuously, they give others too much data. Their preferences, fears, intentions, and emotional thresholds become visible. Predictability follows, and predictability is the enemy of power. Silence, on the other hand, creates ambiguity. It forces others to guess. And when people guess, they project their own anxieties into the gap. This is where control quietly shifts. The quiet person does not need to dominate the conversation because the conversation begins to orbit them. Others start speaking to the silence, not past it. They attempt to fill the void with explanations, stories, even concessions. The silence becomes a mirror. And most people are uncomfortable with what they see reflected back at them when no one interrupts. This dynamic explains why talking less allows you to control the room more without ever raising your voice. Control emerges not from assertion, but from restraint. From allowing others to reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. Importantly, this is not shyness. Shyness avoids attention. Strategic silence attracts it. The difference lies in presence. The quiet person who controls the room is not withdrawn, they are observant. They are visibly engaged, yet verbally minimal. This combination is disarming. It breaks expectations, and broken expectations create psychological imbalance. Throughout this documentary, this principle will repeat in different forms. Loudness invites reaction. Silence invites adjustment. Those who talk less do not chase authority, they let authority assemble around them. This is why silence is often misinterpreted by the untrained observer. To the inexperienced, it looks passive. To the psychologically literate, it is active pressure. It is a refusal to over-explain. A refusal to perform. A refusal to compete for attention in a room where attention is the currency of control. And once you see this clearly, you begin to notice it everywhere. The quietest person is rarely ignored. They are waited on. Their eventual words land harder because the room has already leaned in. This is the foundation of the entire thesis. Talk less, and you can control the room more, not by force, but by gravity. If silence creates control, then excessive speech does the opposite. Talking too much does not make someone powerful, it exposes them. And in social hierarchies, exposure is interpreted as low status. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths in dark psychology. People who talk the most are often trying to secure their position, not reinforce it. The impulse to speak constantly is rarely about contribution. It is about reassurance, reassurance that one is relevant, included, respected, or heard. And the moment reassurance enters the equation, control begins to slip. This is precisely why talking less allows you to control the room more. Control does not come from proving your value aloud. It comes from behaving as though your value is already assumed. In hierarchical environments, high-status individuals are not required to fill silence. Silence bends downward, not upward. Subordinates speak to clarify, justify, and align. Those at the top speak selectively. When someone talks continuously, they unconsciously position themselves as a respondent rather than a decider. They react instead of anchor. Over-explaining is the clearest signal of this dynamic. When a person explains beyond what is required, they reveal fear of misinterpretation. They attempt to manage how others perceive them. But those who truly control the room do not manage perception, they let others adapt to it. Talking less preserves that asymmetry. From a psychological standpoint, speech is data. Every sentence leaks information: emotional state, urgency, priorities, insecurity, bias. The more someone talks, the more transparent they become. And transparency, while praised in moral narratives, is dangerous in power dynamics. Predictability follows transparency. Once predictable, influence weakens. This is why loud individuals are easier to dismiss, interrupt, or redirect. Their positions are already visible. Their emotional investment is obvious. Their need to be understood is apparent. Silence, by contrast, withholds data. It slows interpretation. It forces others to wait. Waiting is submission in subtle form. Talking too much also collapses hierarchy by flattening distinction. When everyone speaks freely, no voice stands apart. Authority dissolves into noise. This is why elite spaces often feel restrained rather than energetic. Speech is rationed. Silence is respected. Those who break this rhythm by over-talking are quietly downgraded, and the downgrade is rarely announced. It happens internally in perception. The loud person becomes background. Their words lose sharpness. Their presence becomes familiar rather than commanding. This is not punishment, it is automatic sorting. Talking less prevents this erosion. Another overlooked factor is emotional leakage. Loud speech often carries emotional coloration, frustration, excitement, defensiveness, eagerness. Each emotion narrows options. When others detect emotional commitment, they know where pressure can be applied. Silence protects against this. A quiet presence conceals thresholds. Others cannot tell what moves you, so they tread carefully. This is one of the reasons why talking less allows you to control the room more, even when you hold no formal authority. You become difficult to read. And what is difficult to read is difficult to challenge. Importantly, this does not mean silence is always powerful. Silence without presence is ignored. Silence paired with attentiveness, eye contact, and timing becomes gravity. The key distinction is not silence versus speech, but necessary speech versus compulsive speech. Compulsive speech signals anxiety. Necessary speech signals intention. Many people talk themselves out of leverage by trying to appear engaged. They fear being overlooked, so they insert commentary. They fear being misjudged, so they clarify. They fear losing relevance, so they elaborate. Each fear-driven word weakens their position. This is why loud behavior often precedes social sidelining. In contrast, those who speak less are not competing for airtime. They are allowing the room to organize itself around them. When they do speak, their words interrupt a pattern rather than blend into it. Interruption creates impact. Impact creates control. This dynamic explains why advice like "just be confident" fails. Confidence expressed through words still leaks need. Confidence expressed through restraint communicates sufficiency. Talking less is not silence for its own sake. It is refusal to negotiate status verbally. Throughout elite hierarchies, this pattern repeats. Judges speak after hearing all sides. Executives summarize rather than debate. Power speaks last, or not at all. The room adjusts upward. This is the deeper reason excessive talking signals low status. It reverses the natural flow of hierarchy. It moves upward instead of downward, and rooms instinctively correct this imbalance. By talking less, you align with the direction of power rather than fighting it. You stop offering yourself for evaluation. You stop narrating your intentions. You stop collapsing distance. And as distance grows, so does control. This section reinforces the core truth of this documentary. Those who talk the most are often the least in control, while those who speak sparingly shape the room without effort. Silence does not function equally across all positions in a hierarchy. Its meaning changes depending on who is silent, and this is where most people misread power. They assume silence is neutral. In reality, silence is interpreted through status. In human hierarchies, speech flows upward. Explanation flows upward. Justification flows upward. Silence flows downward. This is not a cultural habit. It is a psychological pattern. Those with lower status are expected to speak more, to clarify their intentions, to make themselves legible. Those with higher status are granted opacity. Their silence is interpreted as thought, not absence. This is a foundational reason why talking less allows you to control the room more. Silence, when paired with presence, triggers an unconscious assumption of authority. Observe how this plays out in structured environments. In courtrooms, judges do not speak continuously. Their silence signals evaluation. In boardrooms, senior figures often let discussions run while they remain quiet. Their eventual comment, brief and controlled, carries disproportionate weight. The room adjusts around them long before they speak. This is not coincidence. Silence creates hierarchy by forcing others to orient themselves around it. When someone with perceived status is silent, others begin to self-correct. They refine their arguments. They soften their tone. They volunteer information. They attempt alignment. Silence becomes a gravitational center, and the quieter that center remains, the more others orbit it. This is precisely how talking less allows control to emerge without overt assertion. The opposite is also true. When someone speaks too often, especially in environments where status is being negotiated, they collapse hierarchy. They pull attention toward themselves prematurely. Their words become provisional rather than decisive. The room evaluates them instead of deferring to them. Hierarchy depends on asymmetry. Silence preserves asymmetry by keeping intent concealed. From a psychological perspective, humans are deeply uncomfortable with unfilled space in social interactions. Silence activates uncertainty. Uncertainty triggers projection. And projection reveals more about the speaker than the silent observer. This is why silence functions as a status amplifier. It extracts behavior from others while requiring nothing in return. This dynamic explains why elites often tolerate being misunderstood. Clarifying too much would require surrendering the asymmetry silence provides. Misinterpretation is not always a threat. Sometimes it is a buffer. Those who control the room allow ambiguity to exist because ambiguity forces others to proceed cautiously. Talking less maintains that ambiguity. Importantly, this does not mean that all silence is powerful. Silence without recognition carries no status, but silence combined with visible attentiveness, eye contact, posture, timing, signals evaluation. The room senses that something is being withheld, not lost. And withheld information has value. In many social settings, people instinctively adjust their speech around the quiet figure. They lower their voice. They slow their pace. They become more deliberate. These micro-adjustments are not conscious choices. They are reactions to perceived hierarchy. Silence acts as a signal flare, not of absence, but of position. This is why silence often provokes discomfort in those accustomed to dominance through volume. Loud individuals rely on momentum. Silence interrupts momentum. It creates friction. And friction exposes who is comfortable operating without constant feedback. Those who talk less do not chase feedback. They allow others to seek it. This asymmetry is the core mechanism of control. When one person seeks approval and the other withholds reaction, power has already shifted. No command is issued, no confrontation occurs. The hierarchy simply settles. Throughout elite environments, this pattern repeats. Speech is sparse, words are measured, silence is respected. Those who violate this rhythm by overspeaking are not confronted, they are gradually ignored. Their status erodes quietly. This erosion is why talking less protects control over time. It prevents overfamiliarity. It preserves distance. And distance is essential for authority. When people feel they fully understand someone, they stop deferring to them. Silence prevents that collapse. This section reinforces the documentary's central principle from another angle. Talking less is not withdrawal, it is positioning. It places you in the role of evaluator rather than participant, and rooms instinctively respond to evaluators. By understanding silence as a status signal, not a personality trait, you begin to see why control often belongs to the least verbal presence. They are not absent, they are elevated, and the room knows it. Silence does more than signal status. It creates pressure, and under pressure, people reveal themselves. This is one of the least understood mechanics of social power. Most individuals believe control comes from expression, from stating positions clearly, from asserting dominance verbally, from explaining intent. But in reality, the most revealing moments occur not when someone is speaking, but when they are responding to silence. This is exactly why talking less allows you to control the room more. Silence creates an asymmetry of information. One person observes, the other performs, and performance always leaks data. When someone is faced with a quiet presence, they are forced to decide how much to reveal, how much to fill, and how much to defend. Most people fail this test instinctively. The human mind is wired to resolve uncertainty. Silence introduces uncertainty. When no immediate feedback is given, the brain begins to compensate. People talk to close the gap. They explain to regain equilibrium. They justify to reduce perceived judgment. And each attempt exposes motive, emotion, and insecurity. This is not manipulation, it is reflex. In group settings, silence becomes a mirror. Those uncomfortable with their position rush to fill space. Those seeking approval over-communicate. Those unsure of alignment clarify excessively. Meanwhile, the quiet observer remains opaque. Information flows in one direction only. This one-directional flow is the foundation of control. When someone speaks less, they deny others the reassurance of reaction. Without nods, interruptions, or affirmations, speakers begin to self-adjust. They reveal what they care about. They reveal what they fear being judged for. They reveal where their emotional investments lie. Silence accelerates disclosure without ever demanding it. This is why silence is often described as intimidating, not because it is aggressive, but because it refuses to regulate the emotional comfort of others. Talking more regulates the room. Silence destabilizes it. In negotiations, this effect is well documented. After an offer is placed, the party who speaks next often loses leverage. Silence forces the other side to reconsider, to add conditions, to explain intent. Each added word is a concession of clarity. By talking less, one side gains insight while revealing nothing. This same mechanism applies socially. In conversations, the person who talks less controls pacing. Pacing controls emotional rhythm. Emotional rhythm controls influence. Loud individuals surrender pacing by constantly responding. Quiet individuals dictate it by choosing when, not whether, to speak. Silence also reveals hierarchy sensitivity. Watch who becomes uncomfortable first. Watch who starts explaining themselves. Watch who begins to seek confirmation. These reactions indicate who feels evaluated. And whoever feels evaluated is already in the lower position. This is why talking less allows you to control the room more even without authority. Control emerges from perceived evaluation, not command. Another critical factor is self-disclosure. People under silence tend to overshare. They volunteer personal reasoning. They narrate internal states. They attempt to humanize themselves. Each disclosure collapses distance, and distance is the currency of authority. The quiet presence preserves distance effortlessly. This dynamic explains why silence often triggers resentment in loud individuals. They interpret non-response as dismissal. In reality, it is simply non-participation. But non-participation in emotional exchanges shifts power away from those who rely on engagement to feel dominant. Silence refuses the emotional contract. Importantly, silence does not mean disengagement. Disengagement is invisible. Strategic silence is visible restraint. It signals attention without compliance. This combination unsettles people because it denies them control over the interaction's tone. As the documentary's central theme repeats, talking less is not about hiding. It is about allowing others to show themselves fully while you remain unrevealed. Over time, this creates a pattern. People learn that speaking around you costs them clarity. They become cautious. They choose words more carefully. They pause before asserting. The room slows down around the silent presence, and slowing down is a form of control. This is why silence is often associated with seriousness, not because it is severe, but because it removes noise. And without noise, behavior becomes visible. Those who talk constantly rarely notice this. They mistake responsiveness for influence, but influence requires contrast. Silence provides contrast by creating empty space where reactions echo louder. The quiet person does not need to interrogate. Silence does the work. It draws out intentions, values, and emotional limits without confrontation. This is why silence is feared, not consciously but instinctively. And this fear is subtle. It does not feel like threat. It feels like exposure. By talking less, you invert the usual flow of social energy. Instead of projecting outward, you pull inward. Instead of asserting, you observe. Instead of reacting, you wait. And in waiting, you gain leverage. This section reinforces a critical layer of the documentary's thesis. Silence does not dominate by force. It dominates by extraction. Others give away power willingly, word by word, in their attempt to escape it. That is how talking less allows you to control the room more, without ever needing to say so. Power depends on uncertainty. The moment someone becomes predictable, their influence begins to decay, and nothing makes a person more predictable than constant speech. This is the uncomfortable reason loud men rarely control the room for long. Their words reveal patterns. Their reactions expose thresholds. Their emotions leak timing. Over time, the room learns how they will respond before they do. Once this happens, their presence stops commanding attention. It becomes background noise. This is exactly why talking less allows you to control the room more. Predictability is not about honesty or transparency. It is about informational exposure. Every sentence carries structure. What matters, what doesn't, what triggers urgency, what invites resistance. Loud individuals believe they are asserting dominance, but in reality, they are publishing a manual on how to deal with them. Silence denies that manual. In group dynamics, predictable individuals are managed rather than respected. Their outbursts are anticipated. Their objections are timed. Their approval is calculated. When a room knows what someone will say, it begins to move around them instead of with them. This is why loudness often precedes irrelevance. Talking too much also accelerates emotional leakage. Emotion is a constraint. The more emotionally expressive someone is, the fewer strategic options they retain. Others learn when to push, when to wait, and when to provoke. Silence conceals emotional boundaries, and concealed boundaries force caution. The quiet presence keeps options open. Another overlooked factor is narrative ownership. Loud men narrate themselves in real time. They explain their position before it is challenged. They defend before they are attacked. This self-narration eliminates suspense, and suspense is a powerful psychological lever. Silence preserves suspense by refusing to preempt interpretation. Without suspense, there is no tension. Without tension, there is no leverage. This dynamic explains why those who talk less often feel harder to confront. There is no clear entry point, no exposed angle, no emotional handle. Silence creates smooth surfaces, and smooth surfaces are difficult to grip. Predictability also flattens hierarchy. When someone's responses are known, their authority is diluted. Authority depends on surprise, on the ability to interrupt expectation. Silence enables this by keeping reactions delayed and measured. Measured response is power. Immediate response is vulnerability. In competitive environments, this distinction is critical. Loud individuals react in real time. Quiet individuals respond on their own schedule. Control over timing is control over interaction. Those who speak less decide when the conversation moves forward. This is another reason talking less allows you to control the room more. It slows the tempo, and the person who controls tempo controls outcomes. Loud men often mistake speed for dominance. They believe quick responses signal confidence, but speed reveals impulse. Impulse invites exploitation. Silence filters impulse. It replaces immediacy with deliberation, and deliberation commands respect. Over time, the room begins to treat loud voices as signals rather than authorities. Signals are monitored. Authorities are deferred to. This shift is subtle but irreversible. Once someone is read as predictable, they are no longer central. Silence prevents this downgrade by preserving mystery. Mystery is not deception, it is restraint. It is the refusal to over-disclose, and restraint signals that one is not seeking approval. Approval seeking is incompatible with control. The loud man seeks acknowledgement through volume. The quiet man receives acknowledgement through absence. The difference is structural. This section reinforces the documentary's core message from another angle. Talking less protects unpredictability, and unpredictability is the backbone of power. When you cannot be read, you cannot be managed. When you cannot be managed, you cannot be sidelined. And when you cannot be sidelined, the room must adjust to you. That adjustment is control. Silence is often misunderstood because its effects are subtle. To see its true power, it must be observed in those who already operate near the top of social and institutional hierarchies. In these environments, authority is not established by persuasion, it is assumed. And assumption is reinforced through restraint. Across history and modern power structures, the individuals who controlled rooms most effectively were rarely the most vocal. Their authority did not come from dominating conversations, but from shaping the conditions under which conversations occurred. Silence was one of their primary tools. This is why talking less allows you to control the room more, not in theory, but in practice. Consider high-stakes negotiations. Experienced negotiators are trained to speak last, or not at all, after key moments. When an offer is made, silence follows. That silence is not passive, it is evaluative. It forces the other party to confront uncertainty. Often, they will add concessions, clarify intentions, or weaken their own position simply to escape the discomfort of no response. The power figure gains information without spending any. This same pattern appears in executive leadership. Senior decision-makers often allow discussions to unfold fully before intervening. They listen. They observe alliances form and dissolve. They note who speaks defensively, who speaks confidently, and who speaks excessively. By the time they speak, the room has already revealed its internal structure. Their words are brief because they do not need to explore possibilities aloud. Silence has already done that work. In political settings, silence has long been used to project authority. Leaders known for restraint rarely respond immediately to criticism. The delay itself becomes a signal. It implies that the criticism does not demand urgency. The absence of reaction reframes the narrative. Attention shifts away from the provocation and toward the silence surrounding it. This reframing is a form of control. In legal environments, judges and senior attorneys use silence strategically. A pause after testimony often carries more weight than interrogation. The witness fills the gap. Additional details emerge. Inconsistencies surface. Silence extracts truth more efficiently than pressure. The same mechanism applies socially. In elite social circles, excessive speech is quietly penalized. Those who dominate conversations are perceived as insecure or seeking relevance. Those who speak selectively are treated as central figures. Invitations, deference, and attention flow toward the quiet presence. This is not conscious favoritism. It is structural alignment. The room aligns around those who appear least dependent on it. This is why individuals with genuine authority often tolerate being misunderstood. They do not rush to clarify. Clarification implies the need to manage perception. Authority assumes perception will adjust on its own. Silence allows that adjustment to occur. Public figures known for restraint often experience this effect. Their rare statements generate disproportionate attention. When they do speak, the environment quiets. The contrast between silence and speech magnifies impact. This contrast is impossible for those who speak constantly to achieve. Silence preserves contrast. Contrast creates gravity. Another recurring pattern is crisis management. In moments of chaos, those who speak excessively amplify disorder. Those who pause, assess, and speak minimally become anchors. Others instinctively defer to them. Silence under pressure signals control over oneself, which is the prerequisite for controlling a situation. This is a critical insight of the documentary. Talking less is not about saying nothing. It is about saying only what alters the room. Case after case demonstrates the same principle. Authority is not established through volume. It is reinforced through selectivity. Those who control rooms understand that words are a finite resource. They spend them carefully. This selectivity also protects against overcommitment. Loud figures often box themselves into positions publicly. Retreat becomes difficult without loss of face. Silent figures retain flexibility. They can pivot without contradiction because they have not narrated themselves into a corner. Flexibility is power. Silence preserves flexibility. Even in informal settings, this pattern holds. In group conversations, the person who speaks least often becomes the one others look to before making decisions. The quiet individual becomes the implicit reference point. Their approval is sought. Their reaction is anticipated. This anticipation is a subtle form of control. The takeaway from these case studies is not that silence magically creates authority. It is that authority expresses itself through silence. When someone has no need to compete for attention, the room senses it, and the room adjusts accordingly. This section reinforces the documentary's central thesis through observation rather than instruction. Those who talk less are not absent from power, they are surrounded by it. Their silence is not emptiness, it is containment, and containment is what makes control possible. One of the most common ways people surrender control is not through weakness, but through a misunderstood virtue, the desire to be understood. On the surface, wanting to be understood appears reasonable. It feels mature, cooperative, even ethical. But within power dynamics, this need quietly dismantles authority. The more someone seeks understanding, the more they explain. And the more they explain, the more control they lose. This is why talking less allows you to control the room more. The need to be understood creates a psychological contract. It places the speaker in a dependent position, dependent on interpretation, acceptance, and agreement. Once this dependency is established, authority shifts outward. The room becomes the evaluator. The speaker becomes the subject. High-status individuals do not operate under this contract. They assume misunderstanding is inevitable and irrelevant. Their silence is not confusion, it is refusal to negotiate meaning in real time. When someone feels compelled to clarify their intentions, they reveal fear of misjudgment. That fear leaks through tone, pacing, and word choice. Others sense it immediately. The room recognizes that the speaker is managing perception rather than shaping reality. This is where control erodes. Silence interrupts this pattern. By withholding explanation, the quiet individual forces others to adapt. They may speculate, they may misinterpret, but crucially, they adjust their behavior cautiously. Silence shifts responsibility for interpretation away from the speaker. This shift is central to control. Another danger of needing to be understood is overdisclosure. People explain context, they share motivation, they narrate emotional states. Each layer collapses distance, and distance, as repeated throughout this documentary, is essential for authority. The quiet presence maintains distance effortlessly. They do not correct every assumption. They do not rush to fill gaps. They allow others to sit with uncertainty. This is uncomfortable for most people. Silence feels like social risk, but in reality, it is social insulation. Those who speak sparingly accept that they will not be fully known. This partial opacity is not deception, it is containment. Containment prevents others from anchoring you to a fixed narrative, and fixed narratives are easy to manage. This is why talking less allows you to control the room more over time. You remain fluid, unpinned, hard to categorize. The desire to be understood often intensifies under pressure. In disagreements, people over-explain to justify themselves. In criticism, they defend preemptively. In conflict, they narrate motives. Each explanation invites scrutiny. Silence denies it. Silence does not mean surrender. It means refusing to perform emotional labor for the comfort of others. Elite environments reward this refusal. Those who constantly explain are seen as unstable or insecure. Those who let actions and timing speak are treated as composed. Composition is mistaken for confidence, and confidence attracts deference. The mistake of needing to be understood also creates urgency. Urgency collapses control. When someone rushes to clarify, they reveal that they are emotionally invested in immediate resolution. Silence delays resolution. Delay redistributes power. This delay is often misread as coldness. In reality, it is discipline. Throughout history, powerful figures have tolerated misinterpretation rather than dilute authority. They allowed silence to do its work. Over time, the room adjusted its understanding without being coached. This adjustment is key. Control does not come from teaching others how to see you. It comes from letting others recalibrate themselves around your presence. The deeper insight here is simple but uncomfortable. Being understood is not a prerequisite for being influential. Often, it is the opposite. This section reinforces the documentary's central truth from another psychological angle. Every explanation is a concession, and silence is the refusal to concede. By talking less, you remove yourself from the cycle of justification. You stop negotiating perception. You allow the room to move around you rather than you moving within it. And in that stillness, control accumulates. Silent power is rarely announced. It does not demand attention. It waits for attention to arrive on its own. This is why most people miss it. They mistake noise for authority and movement for control. But rooms are not shaped by volume. They are shaped by gravity. To understand why talking less allows you to control the room more, you must learn how silent power appears, not in theory, but in behavior. The first marker is who others orient toward when uncertainty appears. In discussions, watch where eyes drift when a decision point approaches. The loud voices may dominate airtime, but when hesitation enters the room, attention shifts. The group instinctively checks for reaction from someone who has not yet spoken. That person is not waiting to speak. They are being waited on. This is one of the clearest signals of silent authority. The room pauses without being told to pause. Silence becomes a reference point. Others adjust tone, pacing, and content as if responding to an invisible standard. This adjustment happens before any words are exchanged. Another indicator is interruption dynamics. Loud figures interrupt frequently and are interrupted in return. Silent power is rarely interrupted, not because it demands respect, but because the room senses consequence. There is an unspoken understanding that when this person speaks, it will matter. This expectation is created by restraint. Notice also who asks questions instead of making statements. Silent power often expresses itself through minimal, precise inquiry. Questions shift the burden of explanation onto others. They extract information without revealing intent. The person asking does not compete for dominance, they reorganize the conversation around themselves. Talking less enables this repositioning. Body language reinforces this pattern. Silent authority does not fidget for engagement, it maintains stillness. Stillness under social pressure signals self-regulation. Self-regulation is interpreted as competence. Competence invites deference. Importantly, silent power is not passive, it is attentive. The quiet figure tracks reactions, emotional shifts, and alliances forming in real time. While others are speaking, they are mapping the room. When they finally engage, briefly, their words land precisely because they are informed. This precision is often mistaken for insight. In reality, it is patience. Another tell is how others over-explain around them. People speak longer when they feel evaluated. They clarify points that were not challenged. They justify positions that were not questioned. This behavior indicates perceived hierarchy. Silence has placed someone in the role of evaluator without formal assignment. This is exactly how talking less allows you to control the room more. Control emerges from perceived evaluation, not overt command. Also observe who does not rush to resolve tension. Loud figures attempt to smooth discomfort immediately. Silent power allows discomfort to linger. That lingering creates pressure. Pressure accelerates disclosure, and disclosure reorganizes hierarchy. Those who control rooms understand that tension is not an enemy, it is a tool. Another overlooked signal is who can change the emotional temperature with minimal input. Silent authority does not need speeches. A single sentence or even a pause can redirect energy. This efficiency is only possible when words are rare. Scarcity increases impact. The final marker is absence of self-narration. Silent power does not explain itself. It does not frame intentions or defend motives. It lets actions and timing define meaning. This refusal to narrate prevents others from anchoring it to a predictable identity. Predictability, as established earlier, kills power. Recognizing silent power is not about imitation. It is about awareness. Once you see these dynamics clearly, you stop being misled by loud confidence. You stop equating activity with influence. You begin to notice who shapes outcomes without appearing to try. This recognition is defensive. It protects you from misreading rooms and misplacing trust. It teaches you where real leverage resides, and it reinforces the documentary's central insight from yet another angle. The person who speaks the least is often the one the room unconsciously obeys. That is how talking less allows control to accumulate quietly, long before anyone realizes it has shifted. Silence is not inherently virtuous. Like any form of power, it can be used against those who do not recognize it. This is where many people misinterpret quiet behavior. They assume silence is neutral, respectful, or harmless. In reality, silence can function as pressure, exclusion, and judgment, without a single word being spoken. Understanding this is essential, because while talking less allows control, unrecognized silence can quietly remove it. One of the most common ways silence is used against someone is through strategic non-response. When questions, suggestions, or concerns are met with quiet instead of engagement, the silence reframes the interaction. The unspoken message is not disagreement, it is non-importance. And that message often lands harder than criticism. This kind of silence does not argue, it downgrades. In group settings, silence can be used to isolate. When one person speaks and the room responds with no acknowledgement, no follow-up, no reaction, the speaker begins to feel exposed. They may speak again to recover ground, they may clarify, they may retreat. Each reaction further weakens their position. This is why silence feels so destabilizing. It denies social feedback, which humans instinctively seek to orient themselves. Another form of weaponized silence appears in authority structures. Decisions are delayed without explanation. Responses are postponed. Meetings end without resolution. The absence of clarity creates anxiety. Anxiety increases compliance. People become cautious, eager to align, afraid to misstep. Silence in this form becomes an invisible boundary. Talking more in response to this silence rarely helps. It often worsens the imbalance. Overcommunication signals discomfort. Discomfort signals vulnerability, and vulnerability invites control. This is where awareness matters. Recognizing when silence is being used against you requires attention to patterns, not single moments. Silence used defensively is paired with attentiveness. Silence used aggressively is paired with withdrawal. The difference is subtle but decisive. Another indicator is asymmetry. If one side consistently withholds response while the other continues to explain, justify, or wait, power has already shifted. The silent party dictates pacing. The speaking party adapts. This asymmetry mirrors the documentary's core theme in reverse. When silence is on the other side, it is their restraint that controls the room, not yours. Understanding this prevents misinterpretation. Silence is not always wisdom. Sometimes it is strategy, and strategies must be recognized to be neutralized. Neutralization does not mean confrontation. It means refusing to compensate for silence with excess speech. It means maintaining composure without filling gaps. It means recognizing that control is being attempted and declining to participate emotionally. This is defensive application, not instruction. In institutional environments, silence is often embedded into systems. Automated responses replace human engagement. Delayed feedback replaces dialogue. Individuals feel unseen. This is not accidental. Silence reduces resistance by exhausting those seeking clarity. Those who recognize this dynamic stop chasing response. They stop narrating themselves into irrelevance. They conserve words and wait for leverage to return. The key insight is this: silence only works against you if you respond to it incorrectly. Responding incorrectly means over-explaining, justifying, or emotionally reacting. Responding correctly means maintaining containment. It means not rushing to resolve discomfort created by others' restraint. This understanding protects you from the darker side of silent power. The documentary's central thesis remains intact. Talking less allows control, but only when paired with awareness. Silence without awareness can be used as a tool of marginalization. Silence with awareness becomes insulation. By recognizing when silence is being deployed as pressure, you avoid misreading it as rejection or failure. You regain psychological footing, and you prevent yourself from surrendering leverage through unnecessary speech. This section completes the defensive layer of the documentary. It ensures the viewer does not romanticize silence blindly, but understands its dual nature. Because silence is not moral, it is structural, and those who understand structure are harder to control. By the time someone recognizes who truly controls a room, the control has already been established. There is no announcement, no declaration, no visible struggle. The shift happens quietly, through absence rather than action. This is the final pattern that ties everything together. Control does not arrive with more words, it accumulates as words disappear. Throughout this documentary, one principle has repeated from multiple angles. Talking less does not weaken presence, it sharpens it. Every word withheld preserves leverage. Every pause protects optionality. And over time, this restraint reorganizes how others move around you. This is why talking less allows you to control the room more. Control grows when attention shifts toward you without being demanded. Silence attracts attention precisely because it refuses to chase it. In social systems, chasing attention signals need. Refusing to chase signals sufficiency, and sufficiency is read as authority. As words disappear, noise falls away. Without noise, behavior becomes visible. People reveal priorities, insecurities, and alliances through how they fill silence. Meanwhile, the quiet presence remains unexposed. This imbalance compounds. Control also grows through timing. Those who speak less decide when meaning enters the room. Their words do not compete, they interrupt. Interruption resets dynamics. Resetting dynamics is influence. Influence sustained over time becomes control. Importantly, this is not about dominance in the aggressive sense. It is about containment. The person who controls themselves controls the tempo of interaction. The person who controls tempo controls outcomes. Talking less is not restraint for its own sake, it is command over pace. As words disappear, dependency also disappears. There is no need to be understood immediately, no need to clarify, no need to manage perception. This independence from feedback alters how others engage. They approach more carefully. They explain more thoroughly. They hesitate before assuming. This hesitation is not fear, it is respect shaped by uncertainty. The documentary's journey has shown this pattern repeatedly. Loudness exposes. Silence protects. Explanation concedes. Restraint consolidates. Control does not come from speaking over others, but from letting others speak themselves into visibility. When you remove yourself from constant verbal participation, you stop offering yourself for evaluation. You stop collapsing distance. You stop making yourself predictable. And predictability, as shown earlier, is what allows systems and people to manage you. As words disappear, unpredictability returns, and unpredictability forces adjustment. This does not mean silence is permanent. It means speech is intentional. When words return, they matter. They carry weight because they are rare. Scarcity amplifies impact. Impact shapes memory. Memory shapes hierarchy. Over time, rooms remember who speaks only when necessary. They anticipate that person's input. They defer unconsciously. Control settles not through effort, but through expectation. This is the final synthesis. Talking less is not about winning conversations. It is about shaping environments. Environments outlast moments. Those who shape environments control outcomes long after words fade. Silence is not absence. It is accumulation. And as words disappear, control grows, not loudly, not visibly, but permanently.